Dr. Holly Pearson. Dr. Holly Pearson recently earned her doctorate in education with a disability studies emphasis from Chapman University. Dr. Pearson's primary research agenda focuses on intersectionality and diversity in higher education. From a critical, spatial, and architectural standpoint, she is interested in the experiential dynamics of spaces and identities as a means of critically reapproaching higher education spaces and design for diversity and intersectionality. Without further ado, here is Dr. Holly Pearson.
So today I'm here to talk about higher education, institutional diversity, and spaces. But before I get started, I would like to kind of share a story to help set the tone of what I'm going to talk about. So imagine an everyday, ordinary disability service office. You're walking in, you're taking a seat, someone tells you, please wait, someone will come grab you. Someone comes to grab me, basic, hey, how are you? I'm this, I'm Holly, that's that, please follow me. So I go ahead and follow the person into the office. So imagine this is door frame right here. The person gestures. I go, okay, I'll sit right down here, right by the door frame. The person itself continues to walk and walk and walk to the desk. So imagine me sitting all the way back here, and the person faces towards me. The person continues to ask, what kind of accommodations do you need? Like, what am I? I'm just sitting here by the door? What's that supposed to mean? So there's a sense of disconnectedness, the sense of feeling invisible. In a way, a sense of disembodiment, because I'm no longer a person with a face. I'm someone that's sitting here that only requires accommodation. So in a way, I'm just my disability. And a lot of times I feel when I need to talk about my disability, so my disability is significant hearing loss. I live hearing aids. So I feel like in a way someone has locked off my ear, thinking it was my hearing aid, and that's it. That's all I am, basically. So I'm dead that way. And I have to ask, hey, I can understand you. Can I come join you? Can we meet face to face? The person wants was, oh, it never really could to that person. So eventually I get to that point. But there's that whole awkward energy to it, where all I've been introduced to my disability. And I hate to say it, but of course it happens over and over and over again. Because whenever I have to go through life, I feel like in a way, I'm like, imagine there's multiple doors. There's a door, there's a door, there's a door. This is the door where I go in and it's the door of disability. This is the door where I go in and I talk about race. This is the door where I go in and I talk about gender. And you guys get the picture. When I go into the realm of disability, I get comments, questions such as, what kind of accommodations do you need? What do you mean you can't hear me? You're obviously hearing me. Or, have you seen that show? You know that show with disability? I mean, that's what you're all about. Or, you're obviously can sign, right? Or, hey, I know someone else who's deaf. You guys could totally head off. Or, what do you mean you wouldn't get your hearing fixed? What's wrong with you? But when I'm in this door, this space, the rest of the doors are closed. There's no intersection. And it's the same thing when I go to the door of race itself. I get questions like, where are you from? No, where are you really from? To, wow, your English is really good. To, what do you mean sign language is your first language? Don't you mean it's Japanese, it's Korean, it's Chinese, whatever you want? To, what's that? Tell me what that says. I don't know. what frustrates me the most, is this sense of separateness, the sense of I just literally want to scream, stop! I am a person of such complexity. I am someone who identifies as hard of hearing, Korean adoptee, female. I'm someone that grew up in Alaska, and I wear that Alaskan pride. But no, I get reduced to a check mark, to I need to fit a box, to I'm a number. That's it. But the thing I've come to realize through my own personal experiences and research is that disability is diversity. And we really need to change the game right now. We need to change the game. And so part of what my research has to offer when I talk about institutional diversity in higher education is we need to think about space. So what do I mean by space? This is the space, this is the space, this is the space. So take a moment and think about temperature. How does temperature impact you? You feel cold, you feel hot? Think about spatial organization. How does navigating to your office, how does that impact your experience? To navigating to the T. Think about how an identity of a building or an identity of a campus itself, how does that impact your experience? To when you walk into a room, do you feel claustrophobic? Do you feel like this is the airy room? Do you feel like this is a happy space? Do you feel like this is uncomfortable space? To the sound, what sound do you hear? Does it bother you that you hear heel crashing into the concrete floor? Does it bother you when you hear whistling? To smell? To light? So basically, the kind of questions I'm asking you guys to think about is, think about where, when, and who. When is it that you're comfortable? Why is that the case? And it's the same with identity, or identity singular and identity plural. When is it when it comes to your attention? When are you aware of certain identities or identities? That kind of spatial awareness is a beautiful language of spatiality. And it's not something I invented, no. It's something that has been around a long time in the field of architecture, critical spatial studies, geography, urban planning, whatnot. What I've come to learn is that by having a spatial awareness, you start to see how our experiences intersect, not within ourselves, but not with just people, but within the environment that we're acting in. But a lot of times what happens is that we forget about that we're interacting in a surrounding that has a history to it, that has ideology to it, that has meaning to it. So, part of the research I did, what came out, some of the examples that they shared. So on higher education campus, imagine someone with PTSD, who's a veteran, who is adjusting to a civilian life, who feels that her veteran identity is so much more salient than all of her other identities because she's trying to adjust, and that there is no space such as veteran center, whatnot. There's nothing that's put and acknowledged that experience. To a student who is just going to the library and all of a sudden see an art representation that reflects his experience as someone who's a former foster youth. To someone who identifies as biracial and actually wants to avoid spaces such as multicultural centers, where it's a place where it's supposed to be designated for talking about race, ethnicity. But she actually avoids that space because she's experiencing tension between how people perceive her and how she perceives herself. To people that have to deal with an environment that isn't built for them. And therefore, one disability becomes so much more salient than others. But then there's little pockets of moments and places where that person might encounter anti-Muslim attitude. And how that person doesn't really have the face to talk about it, because she spends all of the time talking about the disability. Think about it from a student who is an international student, where she was a majority in her homeland country. And now she comes to America, and now she's struggling with dual minority status. Whereas at home, the disability was what she was very aware of. But now she has to think about her ethnicity, her disability, and constantly trying to negotiate between the two. And also realizing at the same time, having that mental struggle of, I know I'm not like them. I'm not the same. I'm different. Two, thinking about when you're on campus or whenever you're going somewhere, what path do you get to take? How is it different from other people? Do you get an opportunity to continue on the same path, or does your path detour somewhere else and it reinforces that you feel different? What is the classic example of, hey, we put an accessible desk in the front of the classroom, decided to one of these desks, well, the rest of your kids sit behind you in small desks. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a sense of identity. For me, it's a constant on and off switch. I constantly have to turn on, depending on what environment I'm in. If I'm around predominantly Asian people, I kind of put it on. Okay, Asian culture, Asian language, etc. How to pass. It's that same thing when I go and I'm with a bunch of South people. Flip, 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 flip. The part of the problem is that when we incorporate space itself, we start to see all these layers. And all those layers add to our experiences. And all those layers reflect the intersectionality within our lives. So campus themselves, they're not neutral. The physical spaces, the social spaces, and the symbolic spaces. And we're constantly, when we're on campus, we're constantly negotiating with them. And those spaces are influencing us, whether we're aware or not, within that process. So what I'm arguing for is that as we talk about disability, intersectionality, diversity, we also need to incorporate space into the conversation. We need to develop a greater spatial awareness itself. Because it's not as simple as taking disability and putting it into the conversation of diversity itself. Because that's what we've seen happen in the past. Well, what we really need on campus itself is not just institutional diversity, but it's institutional intersectionality is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And again, in the interest of time, 2 quick questions if you have them for Holly. Yes, we have one over.
What was the most challenging experience for you in the face of, you mentioned that whenever you were in certain environments with certain individuals, you would either have to switch on or switch off your way of being or your identity. And so if you could perhaps speak for kind of an experience you had that was the most challenging, kind of how you went about dealing with that.
So one thing I didn't mention is that, no, I did mention it, So growing up in a white community and growing up with a white family, I spent most of my life basically catching up, because I have my hair long since I was 1, catching up on language, development, and whatnot. So it wasn't really until I went to college that I had to deal with my racial identity itself. And encountering spaces where they kind of just have this system implies that if you're a racial minority, you already know how to speak race. But for me, it was such a struggle because I didn't have that racial language. I didn't get what it meant to be an Asian female. I didn't understand why I had white boys hitting on me and quoting like, I don't know, white people and all that stuff. I didn't really get it. And there was really nobody to talk to, which was really frustrating. People would be like when I went to counselors, they would say, well, it's the natural part of going to college, you have an identity crisis. And that was it. But it was like, what I needed was something to help articulate it. And it wasn't really until, so I spent years, reading up Asian American, reading up on Asian literature. And when I got those questions like, what is this? Do you know the history? Do you know the language? So I spent like 3 years of my life brushing up on all that to be like an expert. But then it wasn't really until I went to graduate school and I got exposure to the language of intersectionality that I realized the dirtiness of it, that I am my own person, and that being a Korean adoptee, that is my identity. It's not necessarily Asian American or Asian. So I guess to answer your question, having that language and being able to articulate it, whether it's visually, vocally, textually, something.
You feel like that language gave you more confidence in kind of dealing with these different worlds?
I think it was.
Can you repeat the question?
I think it was, what?
Can you repeat the question? Because you
So he asked if it helped give me confidence. So I think, well, having a language helped me articulate it. But it was really coming to a group of people that understood and valued that belief. That's when I started gaining a greater sense of confidence, because I had a community, I had support, I had love. And so even though I go through the wall that isn't really built for me across all of my